Hello there everyone, you may or may not be aware that a while back I asked you guys to send in some questions for an Ask Me Anything type video for while I'm away on vacation. I'm on that break right now, so this is just going to be a long chill out type video for, you know, if you're interested in me or this channel or you just want to kill some time, we're going to go through each and every one of those questions. The last time I did one of these was around 6 months ago, so it seems like a good time to do it again. We have 40 questions to get through, so let's begin. It's also worth mentioning that I've reordered the questions to group them by topic, and I'll be timestamping each of them so you can navigate around the questions you're most interested in if that's more your thing. Okay, so the first question comes from Poss, and it is, you produce some of the best gaming reviews on YouTube, and yet you don't get many views. Why do you think that is? Telling friends doesn't seem to make much difference. What else can viewers do to help? So I thought this would be an interesting one to kick it off with, even though it is kind of self-aggrandizing by, at the beginning, and thank you for that, Poss. Why don't I get many views? Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure. The obvious answer would be maybe your videos just aren't that good. The secondary answer might be, well, maybe there's just no audience for your type of videos. And then third, maybe it's just, I don't know. Maybe you're just not doing things the way you should be to get noticed. And I think it's more along the lines of the third one. At least I hope it is. Otherwise, I've got a very tough time ahead of me. And if that's the case, it's because, yeah, I don't really play that like YouTube game. Right now, YouTube favors a high volume of content and a lot of watch time. I'll often try to keep my videos under 10 minutes. It's quite the opposite of what most YouTubers do. And I only put a video out once every couple of days. I don't get to do a video every day. I just don't have the, I put myself 12 hours more a day into this, and that is the fastest I can do it. I might be able to squeeze a little bit more out if I have my own office and stuff later down the line, which we'll talk about later. But, really, I just can't make these types of videos faster than that unless I had multiple people. So, I don't know. So the short answer, I guess, would be like, I don't really play the YouTube game. I'm trying to get a little bit better at it. Lately you'll see me saying like the 5 things that are in Phoenix Point, not in XCOM, or the top 7 developer diaries or whatever. I'm getting a little bit more clickbaity or sensational in the titles. They're not really clickbaity because I actually have in the video exactly what I say in the titles. It's not technically clickbait, but it's a little bit more sensational. It's a little bit more headliney, I suppose, which I typically wouldn't have done in the past. And it is working out a little bit better so far. And as long as the content within is still the same, which it is, I don't really mind doing that. But it is weird to look at it. So you ask, what can people do to help? Telling a friend is one thing. I mean, sharing it online somewhere is like the biggest thing. People always say, hey, like, share, and subscribe. That's like what every YouTuber says. And I say it as well. But often you just kind of tune that out. When everyone says that in every video, you just kind of tune it out. But sharing a video is super, super important. I'll show you a difference. I did a video called Factorio Should You Play? Okay, it's an old game. People know it's great. And it's like, hey, Factorio Should You Play? Or something like that. And it's gone on to get like 80,000 views. Now another one I did was Oxygen Not Included, Should You Play? Again, another very similar game, early access Steam, overwhelmingly positive, very hyped up. And that one only has like 5,000 views. So what the hell's the difference between those two videos? I wrote them the same, I voiced them the same, the critique is still me, it's the same. One has 80,000 and one doesn't. So I've been looking at that kind of thing thinking, well, what's the difference? And it turns out that Factorio one was shared by 3 or 4 people in different sites and shared by one YouTuber as well. So when it starts getting noticed, you just get this snowball effect where everyone seems to like really enjoy that video. And for the Oxygen Not Included, nobody knows about it. So sharing a video, it can just make a huge difference. If you go to reddit/r/games or something, you say, hey, I like this YouTuber. Not many people know about him. I'm not too sure why. I thought I'll just share this one video. Or you do that in a specific games Reddit or a specific forum for that game or a specific maybe Steam community or group. That can just make a huge difference because getting that like bed of 500 people that come and look at a video from an external source, if 250 of them kind of watched it to the end, that just helps you get this like little bit of a foundation to put you into recommended to get noticed by other people as well. So yeah, it does help a lot if people share videos. So yeah. The next one comes from Gamer1Wolf, and he says, ever thought about doing lore videos for whichever lore interests you the most? Yeah, not to sound like super boring, but I'm just not that interested in too much lore. However, I did used to do lore videos for Fallout. I created maybe 6 or 7 lore videos specifically based on the vaults of Fallout. They were really good videos, at least I enjoyed making them, and they did really well, so I was really happy with them. And I actually got my girlfriend and a few friends to voice the characters that would have been inside the vaults, because a lot of it is like text logs and things like that, so I got them to voice them out. That was a lot of fun to do, and that was the lore I was pretty interested in. But after Fallout 4, I just kind of stopped caring about Fallout. And there's just not too many other games where I can think of where I really enjoy the lore. So I'd consider it, but I just need the right lore to come along to interest me. The next question comes from DLM. He says, it seems some of your most active subscribers are from Scandinavia. Do you agree? And if so, why do you think that is? Yeah, I mean, I partially agree. I know that my biggest demographic is the US, and then it's closely after that is UK, and then it's just a mix of like European countries. Maybe the Scandinavians are just the ones that tell us where they're from. I'm not too sure, but I do agree that some of the most affluent subscribers and patrons I have are definitely from Scandinavia, the guys that pay the most. And I have no idea why. Maybe they're just super generous people, or maybe I don't know what it is, but I like the Scandinavians. Maybe I should try and tap into that market more and see why our thoughts or my motives align with them so much that they're willing to pay as much as they do and be so generous. But yeah, it's great. I mean, I don't know. I like the Scandinavians. Haven't got a bad word to say about any of them. The next one comes from Regernator, and he says, you're my favorite strategy game reviewer, and I'd like to ask, how do you feel about Paradox games? And will you be reviewing Imperator Rome? To answer the second bit first, yes, I will be reviewing Imperator Rome. I'm pretty excited for that game, pretty interested in that game. I have some reservations about it as well. And Paradox are pretty good with me. They send me stuff early. They sent me Stellaris early, so hopefully I'll be able to get that game as well. And I think they know, a few people there that I know that I'm interested in it, so hopefully I will be able to get some advanced access, and you know that will help the channel out quite a lot. How do you feel about Paradox games? Honestly, for me, it's a mixed bag, and I could spend ages talking about this, so I'll try to just make it succinct. My first couple of games with Paradox were CK2 and Hearts of Iron 3. I really didn't enjoy either of those games, and I still don't. Hearts of Iron 3, in fairness, I didn't give a long, fair shake. It seemed really complicated and convoluted to like learn and get into, so I didn't really bother with it. CK2, on the other hand, I did give it a fair shake. At least I feel I did, and I just don't think the game is for me. I'm not really interested in characters too much, at least not those ones, and I don't really care, you know, if a character can be gay, have kids, become the Pope, take over the world. Like, it's just not really my thing. But I can definitely see why people are interested in that, and I actually enjoy watching some different Let's Plays, and kind of I typically enjoy watching the multiplayer stuff where multiple people play against each other and they're trying to get their house to fame and conquering territories and stuff and inheriting things and how that all plays out. Its modability is what kind of interests me the most, but I'm just not that too into it. Now, the game that has really gripped me for Paradox is Stellaris. That's honestly, I think it's one of the best strategy games in the last 5 to 10 years, and that's because it's just this open-ended sandbox. You can just build whatever you want, any kind of race you want, come across any kind of race. There's an open-ended galaxy that can be generated in numerous different ways. There's a kind of a PvE aspect to it as well, with like monsters and endgame crisis and stuff like that. And then there's like good PvP as well, where it's actually decent in multiplayer because of the nature of just making your own race and starting off on a level playing field. And then as well as that, there's actually a heavy focus on kind of story and building your narrative and exploring space. And I really think that's just incredible that they've actually managed to bring all of that together with relatively deep mechanics. You know, it's deep for, not that deep for Paradox, but it's pretty deep for most strategy games. And I just think it's just an amazing game, and I love it. I just absolutely love Stellaris. If I didn't have a YouTube channel, I imagine all I would do is play Total War and Stellaris. That's probably all I would do. So yeah, so that Paradox game has really enamored me, and I really think that's a fantastic one. And then obviously the publishing arm Paradox games, some of them are just kind of hit and miss, you know. So that's kind of how I feel about Paradox games in a nutshell. Oh, I did play EU4, and I'm learning that game. I'm playing it at the moment. I'm of mixed impressions of that game. I kind of understand why people like it, and at the same time, there's a lot of things I don't like about it. Specifically, the stuff I don't like about it is how just historical events play such a large part in the game, and I'm just not a big fan of that. I feel constrained because of what might be happening in history, but I can see if you're a really big history buff, that's exactly what you kind of want in that game. So you can turn off some of that historical stuff, which is nice, but then you're still bound by these like monarch points to kind of do anything, and I'm just not really a big fan of that. I like more practical resources and more practical building and stuff like that, and I don't really feel like I get that in EU4. As well, the time period, like I said, it's kind of similar to CK2. It's obviously a little bit later. It's just not really for me. I don't know why. Just can't really get into it. But I kind of did enjoy EU Rome, and that game has a slightly bigger focus on characters, less randomization, and less historical constraints, and there's no monarch points. So that's why I think I prefer EU Rome, despite most people saying like, oh man, if you loved EU Rome, you're going to lose your life to EU4, which wasn't the case. So that's why Imperator Rome, I'm pretty interested in seeing how that's going to all pan out. Anyway, spent a long time on that question, so let's move on. The next one comes from Fernander, and he says, my brother and I have Total War Warhammer 1. Do you recommend us to buy Warhammer 2 to play the Mortal Empires campaign on co-op? Generally speaking, yeah. If you're going to be playing co-op, I think you should probably I mean, it all depends. Do you like Warhammer 1? If so, then you're probably going to like Warhammer 2. They're basically the same game, but there's just way more races and then much more landmass if you combine the two games together. And if you know that you're going to be playing co-op, which is the best way to play Total War in my opinion, or head-to-head, I heavily recommend doing it then, especially if it's someone like your brother that you're playing with that you can rely on saying like, yeah, he's going to be there each night or whatever, and we're going to play together, so you know that you're going to get the job done. I highly recommend that. So yeah, I think that's an excellent way to play the game. There's a lot of different variants of how you could play. You know, you could play far away from each other or right next to each other, of the same race or of different races. There's a lot to play through if you're playing a co-op, and you kind of eliminate, to an extent, some of the AI issues that you kind of come across. I mean, you know, you have a formidable diplomatic partner. You can kind of tackle the game together and come into battles together, which is just kind of an experience you don't get in the kind of single player aspect of it. It seems as if you have the most viewers and followers and subscribers when you do Total War content. Could you imagine doing some Total War Shogun 2, Rome 2, or Attila campaign playthroughs on YouTube or Twitch? My guess is that Republic of Play will benefit from that. That's another one from DLM. The short answer is just no, and I'll tell you why. Basically, it's because you say that Republic of Play will benefit from that. It would benefit short term. The views I get from Total War content are high compared to not Total War content, but I just don't want to be a Total War channel anymore. So I don't want to build an audience for just that game anymore. So it's nice to dip into it every now and then to let strategy fans know that it is there and report on it, but I don't want to just cater to only Total War fans by being like, I'm just going to do campaigns in this game just because I get views and a little bit more money because of it. I think overall I actually just hamper my growth when I do that. So I think it's short-term gains, but relatively I'm just kind of looking long-term, where it's like, if I could build up a reputation or at least recognition for doing strategy content and people being used to seeing like different games on this channel, I think that does bring in a certain audience that are interested in that kind of thing. So hopefully it's just like on a bumpy road that will pan out in the end, where it's like, yes, I'm going to have to take a hit in these views for a long time, but hopefully slowly over time, I'm building up recognition as someone that is showcasing interesting games that aren't just Total War and playing in different and interesting games that aren't just Total War. And I'm forfeiting that initial gain in views and subscribers that I would get by being just a Total War channel in order to build that long kind of relationship with strategy kind of gamers, I guess. The next question comes from Lucio, and he says, will you go back to making Stellaris gameplays? So for those who don't know, I've done 2 Let's Plays on this channel for Stellaris, and both of them did extremely well. One has 150,000 views on the first part alone. The other one has like 60,000 or something like that. So they both did extremely well. The view incentive is definitely there to go do that. But again, whether I'm crazy or not, I just kind of want this channel to be a review, critique, preview channel. So it's like, I'll tell you about upcoming games that are coming out. I'll do reviews of those games. I'll cover their content when they make DLCs. And then on Twitch, that's where I play the games. So if you want to watch me play long-form gameplays and do the commentaries just like how I did before, that's all on Twitch. And I know Twitch is a bit of a struggle to go over to for a lot of people. Twitch isn't always live. You can just watch stuff back there. And I'm a partner on Twitch now, so stuff stays up there for 60 days. So, you know, there's really no excuse other than you just want to be in the YouTube ecosystem, and that's fine. But I do need Twitch to survive, and I need YouTube to survive. I can't do either on their own. But both of them equally make the same amount of money, and you know, it's actually still not enough. So I need both of them to survive, and that's where you can go to get long-form gameplay. Now, I will be experimenting soon, or if not already by the time this video posts, with uploading a condensed version of that live stream to my YouTube channel, just for that monthly Stellaris game that I usually do. Because I love Stellaris, as I mentioned before, and I want to see how that kind of plays out on YouTube. If that video does well, then I'll consider doing more. And that's pretty much it. The next question comes from Hemedrick, and he says, are you going to cover more genres besides strategy games? The basic answer is I'd like to. It all kind of just depends if the views are there consistently. Every now and then I will, just kind of as a palate cleanser, because playing a lot of strategy games, a lot of different ones, it really gets a little bit monotonous. Now, I do enjoy strategy games, but you're dealing with learning about resource systems in about 10 different games on a weekly basis, and it's just like, look, I need a palate cleanser every now and then. So you'll have noticed maybe that I uploaded an Escape from Tarkov review a while back. Just recently I did a Battlefield 5 impressions video, and coming up I'll probably do something on Postscriptum. So typically I like FPS games, as you can probably tell by those 3 I mentioned, but every now and then I'll probably venture into other games as well. There's a couple of racing games that I'm interested in. Hitman 2 I got sent early, and I might try out that as well. And yeah, a few games like that. So basically if the demand is there, even half as strong as for strategy games, I'd like to cover them in my, as much as I can. But primarily we're a strategy games channel for now, until we can build up our size enough to say, hey, we can maybe start looking into covering a little bit more as well. Next one comes from Gaston Boucher. Would like to see a video on the upcoming Anno 1800, perhaps when more info is out. Yes, I would love to cover that game. I'm very interested in it. Our Discord is interested in it. So people who have joined our Discord will know there's a little discussions going on in there every now and then, every time some new info kind of pops out about the game. I've never played an Anno game, so I'm kind of out of the loop on it, which means I can't really speak too authoritatively about it, but I can at least come from it. At least if someone's like me and they haven't played Anno, it's like, hey, I played other city builders. I can kind of at least come to it with a fresh perspective and say, is this game any good on its own, if you're kind of discounting the rest of the series, I suppose. But I would like to play Anno 1404. Everyone says that's the best one. It just seems a bit old. So it would be good to play an Anno game before we play 1800. I'm on the Ubisoft list to get stuff, so hopefully I'm able to get that game, and I will be doing content and stuff when we have a bit more information to go by. So Koala Bar asks the next question, and it is, what makes a historical setting interesting for you in video games? Dude, I've gone around on this question maybe 2 or 3 times in my head now. It is a really hard one to nail down. I don't know. I should do a video topic about this because it's very interesting, I think, at least. I'm not too sure what gets me interested in a historical setting. Because, for instance, with Rome Total War, one of the first PC games I played, I wasn't interested in Roman history until I played that game. Then I became fascinated with the history. And probably similarly, World War II, I wasn't that interested in it until I maybe played some video games for it, and then I became interested in it. So what in a video game gets me interested in the setting? I don't know. I think it's typically good gameplay. Good gameplay that immerses you in that historical setting typically makes me care about the setting more and want to learn more. At least that's what I feel. I don't really have many examples of it, but I know that some games go history first, gameplay second, and that is far less interesting to me, and it usually just turns me off. So I'm actually more of a... I enjoy games more than I enjoy history, but I like grounded and realistic games. So when they're historical, that just happens to appeal to me. Whereas a lot of people, I think, paint me as someone who's a history fan. Well, I do enjoy history, but some people paint me as a history fan, therefore you should be interested in this history game. That's usually not the case. I much prefer the gameplay and then the history. So you take Rome 1, like I said, not very historically accurate, though I didn't know better at the time. I basically thought, yeah, this is pretty accurate as a 13, 14-year-old or whatever. And then similarly with World War II. Now, I don't mind gameplay concessions being made in these types of games where it's like, okay, you can do drop shots or jump out of planes without maybe parachutes, or the scale might be off, or whatever it might be. Like, these are gameplay concessions that everyone, like anyone with a brain cell knows, okay, this isn't how it all went down, but we generally get it. Stuff, when stuff is introduced where it's actually kind of lying to you, or it's muddy on whether it happened or not, that really annoys me. So that Battlefield 5 impressions video I just did, I didn't know that, like, they present Operation Narvik, or whatever the operation was called, where they go in and attack Narvik by British airborne invasion. And I was like, this is awesome. This looks so cool. I never knew about this. This is fascinating. Like, how did I never see this before? And then I looked it up to read about it, because I was like, oh, damn, I never knew about this. This is cool. Looked it up to read about it, and it didn't happen. And then I was just like, I was genuinely, like, pissed off. I was like, this is actually really misled me. And if I was someone who's maybe 10 or 12 years old, like I was when I was playing these types of games a lot, I might not have gone to look it up, you know? And back then I couldn't have looked it up, actually. Now at least you can. But back then, when the internet wasn't really around, I wouldn't have even been able to look up that stuff. So you're actually presenting, hey, this is World War II. And it's just like, actually, this didn't happen at all. And that really, really grinds my gears, because it's like, that puts me off the historical setting completely when you're making up events. And it makes me discount the whole game. So I like the gameplay of Battlefield 5, now, but now I just don't regard it as a history game because it just it really annoys me if I think of it that way. It's more just a game where you happen to have some weapons that existed a long time ago. So yeah, I don't know if that answered the question really, but it's a great topic, so I might delve into it in the future further. The next one comes from Smashing Snow, and he says, any advice on keeping your chat engaged while you're streaming? So I'm a relatively small streamer. I mean, I typically have like 50, 60, maybe 70 viewers. On a good day, I'll have like around 100. Keeping chat engaged. So just basically, because I'm a small streamer, take what I say with a grain of salt. You know, I don't know. I'm learning as I go as well as everybody else. But typically what I like to do is I'll look at how fast chat is maybe moving. So it might take the bottom chat to hit the top of the screen, the whole window, about a minute. So I'll check the chat once a minute. That's kind of the rough estimate I do in my head. As well as that, if you're playing a game that can actually engage them, that's really good as well. So I was playing Battle Brothers recently, and I named all the characters after subscribers that I have, and or at least as many as I could. And that was awesome. Like, the chat were super into it. I was into it. Like, it sounds very clinical. I didn't do it just to engage them. I did it because it was fun, and it just happens to engage them. And I can then kind of relate to the characters a bit more when I see them saying things and acting in chat and reacting to how their characters, were fighting or dying or whatever they might have been doing. It was a lot of fun. Now, if your game doesn't allow you to do that kind of thing, I don't really know what other kind of interaction you can give them other than just reading the chat often, asking them questions about what you're doing in the game, asking for advice. Hey, should I go do this thing or do this thing? What do you want to see? And getting chat to kind of like interact that way. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of the best I can kind of explain it. Hopefully that helps. The next one comes from DLM, and he says, do you have any plans to add Twitch support for esteemed senators with new icons? So an esteemed senator, for those who might be unfamiliar, is someone who gives $100 to this channel, this republic, in one go. So DLM is one of those people. There's 10 at the moment, and they're forever held on my website in a special place that anyone can go read at any time. So I appreciate the esteemed senators. Unfortunately, Twitch just doesn't have that back-end support or capability that would allow me to give special privileges to a user based on an external website. So all Twitch really lets you do is recognize people who have subscribed and people who have subscribed for a long amount of time within their system. This is why Discord is pretty cool, because Discord will connect to Twitch and connect to Patreon, and it can feed in the information that it's getting from those sites and say like, hey, this person is a subscriber, and that allows me to give them the senator role. So unfortunately, I just don't have that capability with Twitch. If they ever give the capability of saying recognizing privileged users separately with an icon or a special emote, I would definitely do it. But that's just not the case. The only thing I could do is give them moderator rights, but I don't necessarily want to open up esteemed senators to be all moderators, because someone could pay $100 to become a moderator, and that's just it's not a good route to go down, and we don't really need any more than we have anyway. So that's the short answer, unfortunately, is no. But if they ever give the support, I'll do it straight away. Next question again from DLM says, do you know your Twitch moderators in real life? No, I never met them before, didn't know anything about them or know who they were before, didn't even really recognize them, I don't think, before, until they maybe messaged me when I started Republic of Play asking to be my moderator. I think they messaged me. I don't know if I put out the call looking for moderators or not. I can't really remember. It's been a year, it's almost a year ago now. But I got really lucky with them because they were just the first two. I said, yeah, let's give them a go and we'll just see how it pans out. I thought, after a couple of months, they'll probably just stop watching and leave, or maybe they would cause problems or something. I don't know. But they've been great. They've both been very active. They stayed with me for the whole year. They've been both active on Discord and on Twitch. So couldn't have asked for two better moderators right in the beginning. And we're still not that big, so we don't really need more than them. They're usually, one of them is pretty much there if I'm streaming. So it's great. So the next question comes from Rooter, and he says, is the YouTube, Twitch, Patreon life going as you had hoped? If you know what you do now, would you do anything different, especially regarding the whole leaving CA and the way you did thing and so on? So this one might take a while to get through. I'm going to answer the second part first and then the first part second. So would I do anything different regarding the way I left? In terms of how I left, I decided to stream 2 days after I left, playing Warhammer 1, and basically calling out all my issues with that game, and then by proxy calling out a lot of issues I had with the company in how they managed that game and stuff. So that wasn't really a good look, and I hadn't actually intended on doing that. I had intended, the stream title was I'm looking at Steel Faith Overhaul mod, and looking at why that mod had such a strong backing behind it. You know, had like at the time $3,000 of support. So it was like, oh, we're gonna look at this mod and kind of like critique this and see what's going on with it and why, you know, why. But because I just left, my chat was full of people just asking. I had like 600, 700 viewers asking me at the time, like, why have you left? What did they do with this? What's the DLC like? Blah, blah. And I was just rather sillily, candidly answering those questions. And it just led to me devolving into a pretty ranty kind of stream, ranting about different problems, which wasn't a good look, especially since 2 days before, you know, I'd left the company. I'd say goodbye to everybody. They like, you know, some people came out for my drinks to say goodbye, and you know, it wasn't good. And I said, and as soon as that stream ended, I sent them an email about, and basically apologized and said, look, it's not how I want to present the channel. I know that this damage is going to be probably irreversible, but I just want you to know that, like, I didn't set out to do that, and I'm probably never going to do it again. But it's essentially 2 years of frustrations in 2 hours, and it was stupid. And so it just wasn't a good first foot forward for the channel. Now, did it really hurt? I don't actually think it did as much as you might think. I think a lot of the people that would have otherwise been on board, other than hearing me being negative, were people that just wanted, like, were possibly people that were very into Total War. And I'm not really a Total War channel anymore, so I think, generally speaking, I didn't lose too much favor with that people. And I've kind of gotten a lot of it back anyway since then. So it definitely wasn't a good look. Would I have done it different? My point is, I didn't plan on doing it that way. So it's easy to say, like, shouldn't have done that. But I knew at the time I shouldn't have done that, but it still happened anyway, because unfortunately, I just get into rant mode, and I just couldn't help it. But generally speaking, I actually don't think it hurt as much as you think. I think maybe I could have got a lot more support in that first month, but it would have tapered off. Now, the first part of the question was, is the YouTube, Twitch, Patreon life going as you had hoped? Generally speaking, it's going pretty well, but it's not going as expected. And I'll discuss a little bit why. My YouTube channel, up until when I left, I had never lost one subscriber. I mean, actually, the day I announced I was joining CA 3 years ago, I lost 50 subs, and I gained 50 the next day. So I'd never known, apart from that rare instance, and I was basically telling people I'm like closing my channel, sort of. So that was kind of to be expected. But apart from that, I'd never known YouTube to ever like have me lose subscribers. That's just never really been a thing. So I had thought, okay, I'm going to leave my job. I'm going to tell people I'm leaving my job, and I'm going to be changing the direction of the channel from being all about one game to being about multiple in the same genre. So what's probably going to happen, at least in my head, was I reckon 2/3 of these people will fall away and 1/3 will stick around, and then I'll build on that foundation over the course of a year, because I'd saved enough for about a year. Actually, I'd saved enough for about 7 or 8 months. So that's if I made zero money. So I'd saved for about a year. And it's like, okay, well, I can build up. Hopefully, with good videos, I'll gain a new audience, and it'll just grow, just like how it used to, with the same types of videos. Now, the unexpected thing was, so I actually thought I'd come out the gate with basically no support, financially, and I'd build up an audience over time. What happened was actually kind of the opposite. I came out the gate with pretty high Patreon support, like 2 or 3 times the amount I ever thought I'd get in the beginning. And then big surge in subscribers of like 6,000 or something right in the beginning. And then it basically flatlined for the next 6 to 7 months. And this flatline was basically me gaining subs and losing subs each day. Now, this is something we talk about in our Discord in the Senate meetings. I show every month, I show my analytics, I show my income, all that stuff, because it's people who give money get to see where their money goes and the progress of the channel, so they know what they're getting into. So it's just something I'd never experienced before. It was actually a channel losing growth. And I still don't really know why I was losing growth. I'm assuming it's because when people see a video that they don't recognize the channel name, or they don't recognize who it is, or they don't like the games I'm covering, they're just like, whatever, I'm out. I just want Total War videos from this, and there isn't any. So that's fair enough, but I thought it would be more immediate rather than it's just every day, every now and then you just lose some subs. Anyway, in the last couple of months, I've only gained. I think I'm maybe over the initial 6-month, 7-month hump of turbulent times of like, I can't find my footing. Now, YouTube's algorithm, if you're losing, I was putting out a video and losing subscribers every time I put out a video, even though the video would have like 200 likes and 0 dislikes. So it's like, what the hell's going on? So my channel was just like all over the place. Maybe I should have started a new one. I don't know. Just to get that foundation of growth. But the algorithm, I'm pretty sure, reacts negatively when if a video comes out and people unsub from watching it or from seeing it, that probably doesn't lead to it being recommended often. I would imagine, at least if I was writing an algorithm, that's how I do it. So it was just it's been a turbulent time. So is it going as I'd hoped? Obviously, I wasn't an idiot and thought like it's just going to be all straight success, but I did think it would be a slow burn that I would slowly bring up. And that's kind of the case, but not really as easily as I had thought it would be. Because I actually thought by now, basically a year on, I'll be back up to the 30,000 views per video that I was before. And I'm not there yet. So it's definitely been a slower burn, and it's been a big learning experience of just like, oh, it's honestly, I really do feel like it's just mostly algorithm and related, because I feel like the videos I put out seem to always have a positive response. And the comments we've received in this alone, people have said like, I mean, this is just a small Q&A with a few people, right? But they're like, oh, these are great videos. The comment I hate getting, but I get so much, is how does this channel have so few views? So I don't know, you know. So I've got a little while to stick it out yet, because, you know, financially, the reality is things are quite difficult, but it's not over yet. And I'll be going for quite a little bit more time for now, at least another 6 months, at the very least. So we'll see how it all plans out, but hopefully I can hold on and start riding on this little bit of wave of growth I've had the last couple months and keep it going. So yeah, thanks for the question. The next one comes from DLM again, and he says, what is your plan if you can't continue with Republic of Play full-time? Will you continue putting out content part-time regardless? The short answer, and it's a very downer subject to talk about, but the short answer is if things don't work out and I run out of money, let's say, I would probably let people know a couple months before, and I'd be like, hey, it's not working out, we're winding down the channel, and I'd probably stop the Patreon and stuff just so people didn't feel like I was still taking money right up to the end or whatever. That's how and I don't want to do anything where I'm like, oh guys, the channel's closing, donate now, it's your last chance. I don't want any of that. So I'd probably just be like, look, we had a good run, I did my best, it's 2 months to go now of just pure content, no more donations are going to be accepted at this point, etc. I mean, we're not at that stage yet, we're pretty far from it, to be honest, so don't worry about it, but that would be kind of the game plan for if it was to happen. Now the reason, why wouldn't you do videos part-time regardless? The reason for that is because I feel like if I can't make it work full-time by putting in literally like 12 hours a day or 10 hours a day at least, it's just, what's the point of even trying if you can only do it a couple hours a day? You know, I just don't think it would be worth it. The other thing then is, my other hobby is making games, and I haven't done that in a long time. I have a degree in games development programming. I'd love to flex my programming muscle again. So if things didn't work out, I would probably just get a job and in my spare time work on a game, and then after maybe a couple of years or a year, release a trailer for the game on the channel, and maybe, I don't know, send it to all the patrons that ever gave me money or something. That's probably what I'd end up doing. So a pretty dour thing to talk about. Like I said, don't freak out. Everything's fine. But that's probably what would happen. The next one comes again from DLM, and he says, do you have any theory on why Republic of Play have some of the most dedicated hardcore subscribers? You said once, I'm getting donations way over my channel size. I mean, short answer is I have no idea. If I knew why, I would do even more to get more. But I have no idea. You'd have to ask yourself. I mean, DLM, the person who wrote this question, is one of those hardcore subscribers. He's given hundreds of dollars over the course of like the last few months. He's an insane backer of this channel. Like, I would have to ask him, why? Why do you feel the need to do that? Now, I can only imagine, gun to my head, is that it's partly because, well, I target an audience, first of all, that maybe are an older audience that have more disposable income. Strategy games typically have an average player base of in their 20s and even older, and then typically we talk about a lot of games that were popular 10 or 15 years ago. So that might have something to do with it, that typically a lot of these people have disposable income. Now the other part is probably that they see, oh, this channel really doesn't get that many views, maybe they feel it deserves more, I don't know, and they might want to offset that with the amount they donate. I would imagine if I was making thousands from tons of donators, they might feel like, oh well, I don't need to give him 50, we'll give him 20 or 5 or whatever, you know. So that could be part of it there as well. So I don't know, I'd have to ask DLM. The next question is from Vanishing Dolphin, and he says, have you ever considered joining or forming a YouTube community such as the Yogscast? Since you're no longer going to be affiliated with just Total War Games, has the number of content creators you wish to collaborate with expanded, and any examples if so? Yeah, I think that's a pretty good question, just because the name Republic of Play, the reason I took the name Darren out of it and don't focus the channel around me and my name, is because Republic of Play as an entity or as a brand is more flexible, and I can get people in under that kind of brand or in that kind of community the same way the Yogscast do. So eventually, if things are going well, and I was like, I got collaborating with one guy a lot, and maybe eventually I could be like, you know what, I don't have the expertise or I'm not a good authority on speaking about MOBAs. Wouldn't it be great if we had a hardcore dedicated channel for that, Republic of Play MOBA or whatever? And it's like, they're part of the Republic of Play family. They focus on MOBAs, I focus on strategy. Maybe even in future then it's like we have someone for FPS, someone for whatever different types of games. I just love that. I like that idea that this one channel, if we want to focus on deep strategy or deep experiences that require a lot of time and be able to report on DLCs and things like that, it's kind of hard to be a catch-all for a lot of games, and it'd be great to have this kind of brand that other people can then contribute to with their expertise of these knowledge of other games. Because like I'm just one guy, I just don't have the time to play like everything and really get totally involved with everything. So that was the idea of calling it Republic of Play. It's like, okay, I'll start off with strategy. Hopefully if we build up a following, people that have a bit of crossover and that are interested in some other genres, then they can go out into these other spin-off channels with these other people, and a big nice collaboration can ensue. Now, do I wish to collaborate with other creators just in general on the lead up to that potentially? I would love to, but I find collaboration extremely hard to do. Like, I do it with Total War people because I just know them. I've known them for years, like Jackie Fish, Legend of Total War, and I don't know, other people like Pixelated Apollo and stuff. They're just people I talk to because we're in the kind of community with the same interest. It's hard for me to reach out to other YouTubers. Every now and then I'll see that some big YouTubers are subscribed to me, but they never ask me, hey, do you want to do something together? Like, what do two reviewers do together? The only thing I can think about is maybe a podcast. So I'm thinking about maybe in future I will do a podcast and I could invite channels onto it and I'll go onto theirs or whatever. That could be quite interesting. So we'll see how it pans out. It's just kind of difficult to actually establish that connection with someone to collaborate, because it's like, hey, I like your channel, you're a similar size, do you want to collaborate? It's just a bit weird. The next one comes from DLM, and he says, what changes to recording of videos and streaming will you do at your new location when moving from your shared living? So for those who don't know, I do all my recording in my living room, which is connected to my kitchen. It's like an apartment, living room, kitchen kind of thing. And recording out here is really intrusive on the people that live here because I'm streaming, because I have these big lights and stuff, and it just takes up a bunch of space, and when they want to come in and cook food, I have to leave, and you know, it's just like a whole thing. So I'm not actually moving anymore. There's been a change on that front. Turns out I just can't move right now. Don't have the money. But I can. What is happening is Mitch happens to be moving out, which is just kind of lined up pretty well. I didn't ask him to leave or anything. He happens to be getting a new place. So I'll be moving into his room to do my recording and stuff. That'll be like my office room basically, and I'll do recording in there. So the changes in quality, what will happen is essentially I'll have no more interruptions, which should give me a lot more flexibility about when I want to record things and stuff. I can just go in and just close the door and record whenever I want. No interruptions. The next good thing is that I can darken out the windows and stuff so that the quality of the streams look a little bit better, because at the moment my green screen's like all over the place. So just that's a small thing, but that's nice. And the third thing, which I don't really know if it's going to happen or not, is more just the fact that going into like an office type room to work, I feel like will just allow me to be a little bit more productive. Because at the moment, coming out to the kitchen, I'll work here and then I might get distracted and walk over to the fridge and stuff. Like, I'll still be at home in this other room, but I do feel like if I go in there and close the door, it'll just be a little bit more focused in on what I'm doing. So I'm hoping that maybe I get a productivity increase based on that. So that's not happening for a couple of months at the moment, as far as I know. We'll see when it happens, but probably around September time, and it should be good. The next one comes from Vanishing Dolphin again, and he says, have you ever felt something more demoralizing than looking at rent prices for apartments in London? Yeah, I've looked at my bank account, but no, I've never actually looked at rent prices in London. I live on the outskirts, so it's not as bad out here, but it's still not great. It's pretty close to London, and they get kind of more expensive as you get closer. So something demoralizing that kind of did happen though was I was looking to move to the town over, and we just found out we couldn't, because basically our combined income, me and Rosie, isn't enough to say that we could be able to pay the bills and the stuff and still make decent income. Basically we could do it and just break about even, but that's not good enough for someone who's a landlord who's like, okay, well, that's not reliable enough for them. So we don't have the proof of income at the moment to be able to actually move. It's a catch-22 situation, because we would actually make more money if we did move. because she wouldn't have to take trains to get to work and stuff anymore. Like, we just moved to a town where she works, and it's a little bit cheaper than the rent where we are. So it's kind of like, oh God, we would make more money if we could move, but we can't move because we don't make enough money. So it's really kind of frustrating as the train goes by outside my window. So yeah, I don't know, things can be demoralizing, but the bright side, like I was going to say, is that, you know, I'll be losing Mitch soon, which is unfortunate because I like talking with him about stuff, but I'll be gaining an office. At least maybe I'll be able to work a little bit better. Suleimani writes in again. He's from the previous Q&A 6 months ago, and he says, again, I'll focus on business practices. Has your contact with CA been re-established, or do they continue not to give you their products for review? Nope, it hasn't been re-established, so I don't get their products for review. I know a few people there, and we talk on Twitter a little bit. A few people in marketing, people that would be able to give me keys if they could, but I think their hands are just tied, and that's just the way it is. There's a lot of people there at that company that have, for instance, blocked me on Twitter, even people I don't know. And, you know, I'd imagine that if they found out that I got the game early or for free, they would probably voice their concerns to the management and say, like, well, why is this person getting this, blah, 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 blah. And that's just kind of something that I'll probably never ever get their stuff again, for a long time at least. Because there's just people there that would be very unhappy if I did. So that's fair enough. That's just the way it is. Do you find CA products overpriced, especially DLCs? And if yes, how much in comparison with the rest of video games? I don't find CA products overpriced. I think their base games are pretty much on par with most of the games, and you get a lot in them. For the DLCs, yes, I do find DLCs to be overpriced. That's because DLCs are overpriced, and it's the same with most people in the industry. Most games in the industry do this, and it's just because whenever you just look at the hard facts, it's like, okay, let's say 100 people work on a video game for a year to 2 years. You get that end product, all those man hours that they call them, you know, all those man hours of time and effort that goes into the coding, the design, the art, the music, everything that you see, you get that for $60. And then a small team of maybe 6 to 8 people or 10 people work on a DLC for maybe a month or 2 months, and it's $10. It's like, really? Like, how do you tell me that that's like worth the same? It clearly isn't. And it's never a question of, can they get their money back for those 10 people, you know, that worked on their thing? That's not it at all. It's just how much money can they get to make it worth having those people on that instead of working on another game or whatever. So it's really, they know that not everyone's going to buy a DLC, so the price just has to kind of come up to kind of offset. Because if they charge the actual worth, let's say the actual worth might only be 50 cents to $1, if you really think about like the man hours involved. So if they charge that, they just wouldn't really make anything, because they know not everyone is going to be buying that DLC. So they got to kind of say like, okay, well, maybe only 25% of the player base is going to buy this, depending how far out they are, how actively engaged they are, how well the product's sold. So it's like, oh yeah, that's then worth having it at this price to say that we kept 7 or 8 people on it instead of having those 7 or 8 people on a full game. That's just the way it is. So as a consumer, like, I understand how it works and I'm okay with it, relatively speaking, but it can feel like you're just getting ripped off when you're like, damn, this is all in the base game. A modder can do some of this stuff, and then they charge like $10 for it, and it's like, really? Comparatively, it doesn't really make any sense. But if you look at it as a bite-sized extra bit of content, you know, maybe you're getting a campaign or whatever the game might be, another extra 8 hours out of the game, $10 is actually kind of okay sometimes. So it's all subject to the value of what you place on that worth of $10. Right now, $10 is a lot for me, so I don't like spending it at all. But if I have a lot of money to throw away, then it's like, yeah, whatever, it's just $10 for more fun in a game I'm enjoying, so whatever. So yeah. What's your opinion about the Legend CA rep controversy? So this is basically, for those who don't know about this controversy, this mini controversy, Legend of Total War is a YouTube channel who primarily specializes in Total War games. He got sent Thrones of Britannia ahead of release, so that he gives his impressions on it. He gave his impressions on it, and he highlighted some mechanics that he didn't think were very good. He mostly focused on the negative aspects of the game to let people know about things that he didn't think were very good. And then later on, CA basically didn't send him the next round of early access for that game before it came out. This kicked up a bit of a storm. Legend then explained why he wasn't getting it, which it turned out was because he didn't follow some very, very minor technicality of a rule, which is you have to respond to this email to contact us rather than respond to the guy directly. He responded to the rep directly, who saw the response and acknowledged it, but because it wasn't through an email or something, that it didn't count, and then he was banned from getting it. So it was just too convenient that your only one real negative channel not even a negative channel, just straightforward gave his opinion about a problem that he had with the game, it's like, okay, well, we're not going to send him that stuff anymore, because Reddit, the Total War Reddit and the community got up into a bit of an uproar saying like, oh my god, like this feature is a big thing, and they had to get their lead designer to come in and kind of talk everyone down and say, actually no, it's fine, it's going to be great, blah blah blah. Anyway, long story short, they stopped sending him stuff when he was the only one really talking about it. You know my feelings on, like, I don't get sent it either, and I'm kind of labeled as someone who would probably be quite negative as well. And no one else really called these things to attention. So at the end of the day, he gave good information that people wanted to know, whether or not you agree with his opinion on those things or not. And he did present them pretty clearly in a pretty fair manner. He wasn't like laughing or joking about how bad the game is or anything. He just gave his opinion on it. Then he doesn't get the access next time around. It kind of seems like, well, he stopped getting sent stuff because he had a controversial opinion about it. And that's a really bad look for Creative Assembly, in my opinion. Now, on the other end, he shouldn't have named the guy. He named the guy that he was dealing with and explained that he doesn't think he's good communicator or whatever. And that drew a lot of attention to that person. And then that person probably got a little bit of, maybe not harassment, but probably at least just got questions fired at him, like, why aren't you giving this to this person? And I just think it wasn't a good look on either end at the end of the day. But it's worse. It's definitely worse for Creative Assembly because the game came out. The game isn't good. It's very mediocre, and a lot of people have a lot of problems with it. It turns out Legend was on. He was just trying to inform people. A lot of people agree with what he had to say. No one else was talking about it, and now they're not giving him content anymore. So it's starting to look like, well, you're only pandering to the people that are saying good things, and that's a bad look for a company to go down. And then people can't trust the information they get, and they'll get burned eventually if a game comes out that they don't like, and they're going to be like, oh, everyone was saying this was great and it wasn't. I feel burned by my $40. Give me a refund. Who can I trust? So that's what could end up happening, and it's starting to happen a little bit. Now, as long as their games are good, then it's not going to be a problem. It's only if there's something wrong with one of their games that this will really manifest itself. So I'm disappointed that CA have cut ties with him. I think it's a bad move. How do you comment on CA's marketing team neglecting other forums, Total War Center, or even their official ones in favor of Reddit? Well, I can't speak to them ignoring their own forums. I don't know if they do that or not. I know while I worked there and I was on the community team, I never used the official forums. That's just because I just don't have the time to read that stuff. There's way too much stuff there. You know, 100 posts on a forum from 100 people giving their opinion, that takes a significant amount of time to read through, at least for me. Whereas on Reddit, you could have one post with 100 upvotes, and it's like, oh, okay, I know 100 people like kind of align themselves with this idea or this comment or whatever. It's a huge time saver, and you can see at a glance much quicker if things are like trending and stuff much more, like what is a big topic and what isn't. So I think Reddit's a great tool for that reason. So I don't know if they're neglecting their forums because of that or at all. By the way, it wasn't really my job to read those forums anyway, but I just never did. I was a video producer mostly, but Total War Center, I'm not too sure. Yeah, they might just not have enough data to know if they're really having an impact there or if it's worth the time posting there or not. So yeah, like I said, I don't have a problem with if they want to use something like Reddit. I think they should invest in their own forums. I think that's just always smarter to do that. I like the way Paradox have a kind of an upvoting and a downvoting system. You can either agree or disagree, and it says respectfully agree, respectfully disagree. You know, so it's just kind of nice. It's not really like malicious. I would love to see something like a Reddit where you actually just can't downvote. I think that would be great, where it's just like the best stuff floats to the top, the most pressing issues float to the top, and no one's trying to bury each other because of their usernames or little groups or cliques that they have with each other. So I think that would be probably the best outcome. And the last one from Sully Amani says, what's your opinion about Reddit's atmosphere? Is it hostile, friendly, or too fanboyish? Sorry for the amount and perhaps inappropriate nature of my questions. I'm simply particularly interested in how marketing in the games industry works. No worries, I enjoyed the questions. It depends on the subreddit you're visiting. So I read a lot of the subreddit games. I think that's a really great one. It's curated really well. The moderators are great. They're really quick to action as well with stuff. And it's basically just hard-hitting journalism. You know, there's no real jokes or anything like that. Every now and then there's a few trailers, but it's mostly like discussions, which I find really interesting. A lot of designers and developers will be posting there and things like that. I find it really good. Then on the other side you have a subreddit like gaming. And gaming is more just like memes, photos, and stuff like that. So I feel like that's a nice balance between the two. You can kind of visit both. I think what you're maybe referring to is that Total War, at least lately, the subreddit for Total War has been leaning to being very fanboyish, and there isn't much discussion going on there anymore. So if I was in charge of it, and it's always good and fun to enjoy, enjoy the kind of game and enjoy the franchise that you're a fan of and have fun with it. It doesn't, everything has to be serious and, dark all the time. But at the same time, there is definitely room for those discussions, and often I see them being kind of like downvoted, not even when I'm posting them or whatever. Other people like that might have concerns. It gets kind of downvoted, and then the stuff that always goes to the top are like the memes, or there is a little bit of fanboyism surrounding, their CA representative that posts there. So it's kind of strange to see, and I wish it would go the way of the Reddit games and gaming, where it's actually like Total War memes and Total War discussion or something, like separate the two. Because if I was making it, I just probably wouldn't really allow the memes or the shit posts or whatever, as funny as they can be. I kind of care about the series more than that, to the point where I'd rather, just see it constantly get improved and have discussions on how to keep it going, keep getting it further along. Like I said, every now and then it's fun to see a little thing and have some fun with the franchise you're playing around with. But I do feel like it's actually detrimental to the overall discussion and moving the series forward, in my opinion. So that's my opinion on that. Next one comes from Dish Soap, and he says, "What's your stance on the iconoclast controversy?" Honestly, I don't really know what this means. I posted it in my Discord asking people like, what does this mean? Is he referring to like the stuff in Byzantine history and things like that? Or is it to do with the game Iconoclasts? I couldn't find what the controversy is. Sorry if I'm missing out on the meme, if I'm not kind of playing along with it. I don't get it, I guess. Alright, so the next question is from Sabotaged858. He says, "How do you feel about competitive games such as CSGO? Would love to get your opinion on Battalion 1944. It's an upcoming competitive shooter modeled off of the early Call of Duty games that seems to be struggling." So as for competitive games, I've always kind of enjoyed them, but I never really played them too much. I remember when I was much, much younger, back in like 2007, I played my first kind of mini competitive scene on console. I played Rainbow Six Vegas, and I was in like a little clan, and we had a leaderboard on some website, and we were working our way up, playing other clans and doing like training nights and stuff. It was actually just like a lot of fun. You form a nice group of friends doing that, so I can see why people get into it. These days, I much prefer just playing games on my own. I don't like ever being on voice chat. I hate it, actually. I just like being on my own. I think that's why I gravitate towards single-player experiences a bit more. You don't have to wait for anybody. And, you don't get yelled at if you do something wrong, and you don't get frustrated if they do something wrong. You just play on your own. So, but I did actually get into CSGO, to go back to the beginning of the question. I got into CSGO a couple of years ago when I was just at CA, I suppose. And I have about 400 or 500 hours in it, and I love that game. It's really good fun. I mean, it's just straight up like you need to be good at aiming and you need to know the maps. That's basically it. Now, I was never... Like I said, I always played it on my own. I never really coordinated with my team that well, and it made it kind of hard to progress through the ranks. That was the first game I'd ever played that had that ELO ranking system where you can go up or down. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. Because I worked my way up until a Master Guardian Elite, I think. So it's really rewarding to progress through those ranks. I think that's what all competitive games should have, that kind of thing. So I also played Company of Heroes 2, like multiplayer PvP, quite a lot. It's probably the most competitive I've played in RTS, because I think that game is actually like pretty well balanced and really good fun, and I like the setting and the era. And I used to play that in 2v2s a lot with just one friend, and we weren't on any leaderboards or anything, but we just used to play it a lot. Almost every Sunday, I think, together we play like 6 or 7 games. So I like competitive games. There's definitely if the right one can come along, I can definitely sink a lot of hours into it. As for Battalion 1944, I actually played that game before it came out, and then I played it again on launch. And I don't know, it just felt a little bit simple to me. I know it's trying to be like the old Call of Duty games, but as with a lot of these games that come out, like that are arena shooters or more antiquated games, like they're like, oh, we want to be like Call of Duty was, and then Quake Champions like, we're going to be like how Quake was and stuff. It's like I wasn't really there to play those games, I don't really form that connection. And then when I look at them now, I don't really see what they're offering that the modern games don't have. Maybe like Call of Duty might be a bad example. Like Call of Duty these days, I don't play it because it just looks like absolute trash to me, and it just loses all. I don't know. Well, anyway, we won't go into that. But as for something like CSGO, whenever I'm playing Battalion or Siege, like Rainbow Six Siege, I just think, why wouldn't I play CSGO? That is just a tighter game than these games, in my opinion. So, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not that well versed in competitive FPS, but just when I played it, I just thought, it seems a bit simple and kind of boring, and then the players dropped off really quickly, so I don't know. The next question comes from Smashing Snow, and he says, how do you feel about the crossplay news going around? What are your biggest gripes in the gaming industry? That's a pretty loaded question. To try and be quick, so the crossplay news is basically that Sony doesn't really allow people to play with other platforms on their platform. Personally, for me, I just don't really care. I have a PlayStation. I've never ever wanted to try and play with someone on Xbox or PC, so it's just never affected me. That might be quite a selfish way to look at it. It's like, well, it doesn't affect me, so I don't care. But that is just kind of how I feel about it, ultimately. It's like if you want to play Fortnite with your friends, it's free, so maybe just play it on PlayStation. Now, I understand it gets complicated when it's like, oh, but I have it on Switch to be portable and, you know, walk around and I need a separate account. It's like, just make a separate account. Who cares? I don't really understand why it's such a big deal if it's free. I guess your skins and stuff might matter. Look, things would be easier if everyone could just play against each other, but I don't know. When I was a kid and playing PlayStation a lot, I never thought, oh man, I wish I could play against Xbox players. Like, why? Why do you want to do that? It's not like there's any shortage. There's millions of players. It's not like you can't find a game and you need to merge the systems. And I like the idea that everyone actually has. The best thing about console for me is everyone is on the same platform. Everyone's using the same hardware and everyone has the same input, relatively speaking. So that's like the beauty of consoles. Like one of the best things about it. You don't have a situation where like you're playing something like PUBG on PC and maybe someone has their graphics like super low and someone has them high and foliage is a little bit different. You're wondering, you know, could he see me or could he not on his screen? I get that with Battlefield a lot. It's like the screen is full of smoke. I can't see anything because I have all my graphics at full, and then someone just like has all their settings down low and just like shoots you. The smoke's like barely even there on their screen. And you see a lot of YouTubers who are playing more competitively. They turn all their graphics down. Like, I hate that. So it's just, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, there's a long-winded answer to that. It doesn't really bother me. I guess it would be nice if everyone could play together, if that would solve that problem. But ultimately, when I was a kid playing these games, I just never had that issue. Never wanted to have that issue. Don't have the issue today, and I play console a little bit now. So, I don't know. What are my biggest gripes in gaming? Man, I could go on for literally hours about stuff. But I would say one of my biggest gripes in the gaming industry at the moment is this kind of it's kind of a political agenda, I guess, and I don't really want to get into it, but I think most people probably know what I mean, whether it be on the left or you're on the right, or you're on the force for removing toxicity, or you're on the force for freedom of speech, as they say. Whatever it might be, I hate this kind of like, I'm starting to question everything I'm seeing. I see a female character, I'm starting to wonder, like, did the dev want that there, or did they feel they had to put it there? You know, is this a story they wanted to tell, or is this a story they feel they have to tell for some reason? I never really questioned that before, and it was only very recently that I've started really thinking about it more and more. And I had those experiences working inside of CA. I know there's people like how certain people are, and you really just can't voice your concern against it because you'll be labeled like a sexist or homophobe or whatever, even though you're not. Like, you might be the most, you know, and it's not, I'm not even referencing me necessarily. Like, I know other people that have gone through these issues and been put through the ringer in HR teams and things like that because maybe they said something that wasn't appropriate at the time. And it's like, dude, the guy's got like, he's like, his brother is gay, you know, and you're calling him a homophobe. Like, get real. But anyway, so that kind of stuff really pisses me off, and I think it's bleeding over into the actual games as well. Aside from that, I guess there's a bunch of things, you know. I could just go on forever about gripes in the gaming industry, but that one is just one that comes to mind, I suppose. Okay. The next one comes from Jack the Reaper, and he says, did you fully research when you make a video about telling something? Yeah, so this comment goes on for quite a bit, and it's always the ones with bad grammar that are the ones insulting you, I guess. And it's okay, I do take the criticism pretty seriously. And he said, basically, he goes on to say that in my XCOM, you know, my Phoenix Point features that are not in XCOM video, he says 2 of them are in XCOM. You got them wrong. So I went through it, and I went through and had a look to see, did I make a mistake? It seems like I made one mistake, which is willpower was a feature that I mentioned that is in Phoenix Point, is also in XCOM War the Chosen. So the question is, do you ever fully research when you make a video? my research process is basically I play the game for a significant amount of time. In this case, I played both games because I had to, because I'm talking about 2 games. Then I also played and went back. Well, actually, I didn't play. I looked up and went back through XCOM 1 stuff. And then I also asked my Discord to weigh in on the features that I was going to mention in the video. So I tried to cover my bases as best as I can. I spend a long time doing research when I'm making a video. But occasionally, every now and then, I'll miss a feature and something will get through the cracks, or I'll get something wrong. And that's usually highlighted by someone who is extremely clued in and keyed into that one particular game. So 99% of people probably won't notice the issue. But what the 1% will be like, well, I'm a diehard XCOM fan, you're doing a video on XCOM, and I noticed that this little piece of information was wrong if you consider that it's in an expansion. You know, so it's just very like granular. So unfortunately, I did get that one wrong. Willpower is technically in an expansion of XCOM, and the feature has been talked about a bit. So that's a mistake, but he asked me to take down the video, and he's like, you should really like, I don't know. Anyway, I won't go into what he said. But I'm not going to take down the video because the information I presented on Phoenix Point is still quite accurate. It's still extremely accurate. And if I don't feel like I'm misrepresenting XCOM by saying that willpower just isn't there, because it's not in the main 2 base games. It's in an expansion. Sure, it's there a little bit. So unfortunately, I did get that wrong. I've updated a comment on the video to let people know that, but I'm not going to take down the video because of it. So hopefully, I don't know, it's a little bit of insight into what goes on to the research of my videos. Like I said, play the games for a significant amount of time, look them up online, compare features with other videos, and then ask people in my Discord. You know, I can't do anything more than that most of the time, apart from, I don't know, buy an expansion that I don't have £40 for. All right. So the next question comes from Ava, and he says, when are we getting the Darren-made Mitch game? So this is in reference to when I was away on holiday a while back in Ireland. I went to visit my family. I mentioned that I was designing a little game that was intended to be extremely small in scope that could be made in about 2 to 3 months. And I was going to get Mitch to make it with me. I can do programming, but Mitch is a much better programmer than me. I much prefer doing like production and design kind of aspects. Generally, it's just easier, I guess. But it's also just, I think it's where I excel. So I presented the game to Mitch and told him about it, and he was pretty into the idea of doing it. Now, when I came back from Ireland, I got extremely sick, and I just didn't even have the energy to talk to him about it at all. And then soon after, he told me that he's moving out in a couple months. So it just seems like it's never going to happen, unfortunately. He's not moving terribly far away, and if we stay in contact, then maybe we will think about getting it done at some point. The thing about Mitch is he does get quite bored, I think, from time to time, and then he'll look for a project like this. And if I give him the goal and the production of being like, hey, look, you've got 2 months to do this, and I'll go back and forth with you on it, and we'll both do a little programming. Well, he'll do the majority of programming, I'll do some programming to help, and then also lay out the structure of what he needs to do. He gets quite into that, so it could happen, but I think generally speaking, unfortunately, it's just probably not going to happen. So the next one comes from Anomaly, and he says, would you consider a Kickstarter for a game of your design? I know you've talked about your idea for a game, but I'd like to know how far you'd go. Don't give away your idea by answering. So for those who don't know, I have a lot of ideas for games. I'm sure a lot of people do. But I have one in particular that's I like to think very good. It's never been done before. I've never seen a game done before. The mechanics of the game are probably quite familiar, but the setting and the theme and what you're dealing with in the game has never been done before. Told Mitch about the game idea, and he was like, yep, that will be pretty cool, and it would just sell really well. Because it's just one of those things that when you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, like it's just kind of obvious when you hear it, which is how you know you're onto something good. The other thing is, I'm just terrified someone's going to do that game, and it'll break my heart, because it's kind of obvious when you think about it. So I don't know, but anyway, would I ever Kickstarter that game? Unfortunately, no. I mean, maybe one day, who knows? I'd need about 50 or 60 grand and a lot of time to be able to put a team together, like a small team together to make the game. It's not like I'm here saying, oh, I've got some amazing idea, no one's ever thought about this game before, like just simulate a whole galaxy. No, it's a very doable game. Like I said, I have a degree in this stuff. I know how long it would take to make, and I know what's required to make it. It's very doable with a very small team of people, like 4 people probably. If you get a couple talented programmers, a couple talented artists, and away you go. Pay for the rest of the assets with, like, you know, music and stuff, with contracts. So I'd love to be able to make it. I do think, I especially think it's kind of strategy related. I think my fan base would be interested in it. So if I ever got to the position where I could get to do it, I'd maybe consider a Kickstarter, but I would only do that if I had a significant portion of the game already done, and then I had a clear deadline of when it's going to be done by. I'd be like, look, we've got 8 months to go. I don't care if this project makes $1 million or if it just hits its goal of like 50 grand. We're hitting it in 8 months, and I'm not going to bloat the game based on like the amount of money we make or whatever. We'll do follow-up stuff maybe after that, but that'll be it. But yeah, if I had a significant portion of the game done, I think then people will be able to see and understand why it'd be cool. If I didn't, and I was just like, hey, I'm kickstarting a game and I don't have anything right now, and if it somehow was even successful, I feel like other people would just do the game before I even got it done. So I don't know. But anyway, it's nice to think about. I don't think this is ever going to happen, but maybe one day if the channel got big enough and I was able to have the money to put aside to do that kind of thing, it'd be great. I'd love to do it, and I will cry my eyes out if someone else does this game. Because I know someone will, eventually, which is the sad part. It's only a matter of time. The next question comes from Anonymous, and he says, are you more Irish or more British? Postilies for the win. Well, I'm 100% Irish. I was born, I think, in Dublin. I've lived in kind of Dublin-Meath border my whole life, surrounded by fields, out in the middle of nowhere. And then I went to college down the south of Ireland for like 4 years, so I'm 100% Irish. Culturally, I don't really feel that Irish, but I am 100% Irish. I've lived in Britain or England for 3 years, and I share absolutely nothing in common with anybody here, I have learned. So the mindset is just very different over here, and it's hard to explain or figure out why, but I have a theory that's to do with the population. There's a very large and quite diverse population over in England, whereas over in Ireland, it's a very small and not so diverse population, although the population is getting much more diverse in the last maybe 7 or 8 years. So what I mean by that is just like, I don't know, there's just a weird mindset behind things. It's weird to go to the doctor here. It's weird to like book trains and stuff. It's weird to like do anything here. It's just strange versus in like rent, anything like that. It's just really weird to me because you have to go through all these systems and people act like you're just in a system and not that you're a person. And I'm very unfamiliar with that. I was trying to get an apartment before a long time ago, and I was like, look, I can pay you the first 6 months up front, all rent, because they're like, you're not going to be able to afford it. It's like, dude, I can give you all the money. I can give you the money. Up for a year, I even said. And they were like, no, it would just complicate things. Like, you have to go through the system. It's like, okay. And then when I went to the doctor recently, they were like, oh, you're unregistered at our practice. And I was like, okay, what do I do there? And they were like, oh, we didn't realize we unregistered people. And I was like, well, neither did I. Can I just, what's the deal? What do I got to do? And they're like, you have to submit all this information. And then one of the forms was like, you have to give us information about your previous doctor. And I was like, this is my only doctor. And they're like, yeah, you still have to fill it all back out. And I was like, you want me to fill out your information for this place? And they're like, sorry, yeah, that's just the way you have to do it. So it's like, what is this like devoid? I just don't understand that. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but I just don't understand, like, I'm a person. You're a person. You understand the situation. But for some reason, you're like, well, we got to go through this like weird system. And I just find that really weird. In Ireland, if you want to rent or you want to do anything, you just give someone some money. And that's it. Hey, I want to rent this place. You know, you might sign a contract or whatever, but it's like, okay, here you go. Here's 500 quid every month. You want to go to the doctor. Hey, I need to get something seen. Here's 30 pounds. And there we go. You know, it's just so much simpler than over here. It's so weird. But I don't know. I think it's because there's like a huge population over here, and I guess a lot of people might take advantage of systems as well. Maybe that's why they're all in place. I don't know. But the mindset over here is just extremely different than it is, at least, you know, in Ireland, where what I'm used to anyway. Bonus question: what's your favorite food, and do you like spicy food? Yes, I love spicy food. My favorite meal would be Indian food. So I typically like to get garlic chili chicken with garlic naan bread and peel rice, and I wrap it all up like a big burrito and just eat it that way and dip it into the sauce and stuff. Oh man, just even thinking about it's getting me going. But I like to have like a lamb tikka as well to start or something like that. Throw in a few papadums. It's just a great time. I could eat Indian food every meal of the day. I really just love it. And there's so much variation as well. And I used to cook my own curries when I had a bit more money. I would get like all the ingredients, and it would like take like 5 or 6 hours to cook it, and it was so good sometimes. First few times it was bad, but when I learned how to do it properly, it was good. But yeah, when I went to America last year, me and my friend Richard, we like to kind of try out the spiciest things we can. We watched that you know, that Hot Ones show from First We Feast YouTube channel. It's like the 10 hot wings. It gets progressively hotter as you go up. So we went to Buffalo Wild Wings. We used to do that. And as well as that, we found the Carolina Reaper jerky. And for some reason, we decided to go out to the beach with this bag of jerky each. We both had a bag, and I think we went out to the ocean, deep into the ocean, and then shoved it in our mouths in a totally non-homo way. And basically the idea was like, okay, it's incredibly spicy, because we had one bite before. It's incredibly spicy, but we're going to go out to sea so that we have no way of drinking anything. And we're, it's just covered in salt water, so you can't drink the ocean. So we want to just experience pure pain, I guess. It was a lot of fun doing that, and it was pretty silly or whatever. And then we did it, and we ate all the jerky, and then we came back. Fast forward 8 hours later, Rich is in the shower or whatever. I'm sitting out in his living room, and I'm like, uh-oh, I really have to go to the bathroom suddenly. My tummy is like extremely... Suddenly you just get this feeling. It's like, I gotta go. Like, I've never felt anything like it. It's just like, not even pain, nothing. It's like being queasy when you know you're gonna get sick, but for your asshole. So I was like, uh-oh, something's gonna happen pretty soon. My girlfriend's sitting next to me, and I'm like, did we eat anything weird like at lunch? Are you feeling all right? And she's like, yeah, I'm fine. And I was like, I really have to go to the toilet. So I'm like knocking on the door. Richard, you gotta come out. I need to go to the bathroom really, really badly. And he's like, all right, I'm just in the shower. I'll be like 1 more minute. And I was like, okay, I can wait. So I'm just like there, standing there like for a minute. Get another like twist kind of stomach cramp. And I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna like, I'm actually gonna shit myself. And I was like, Richard, you gotta come out right now, or I actually might have to go to the toilet in your sink. Like, seriously, I need to go like right now. And he's like, look, the door's open. The door's open. Just come in. I'll pull over the shower curtain. And I like burst in the door, sat down. Everything went to shit. No pun intended, I guess. But everything went crazy. I destroyed myself. And then I was like, for the whole time, I was like, what the hell is wrong with me? What did I eat? And then suddenly my asshole just burned. And I was like, oh my God, it's the fucking Carolina Reaper. And basically when that kind of thing happens, the whole room knows about it. So he was in the shower and he was like, oh God. And he's like, the Carolina Reaper? And I was like, I think so. And he's like, I'm taking a shower to wipe this shit off my ass because I just went through the same thing. And I didn't want to say anything. So, oh man, it was a bonding experience for sure. Looking at him peeking his head around and me just like vulnerable on the toilet, like destroying my asshole. The reason I'm telling you guys this is just because I think it's quite interesting that almost to the minute, 8 hours after we ate that together at the same time, we both experienced like complete anal failure, I guess. So yeah, I love spicy food. Anyway, long story, but there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. When will I be able to buy merch? And that's from DLM. Appreciate this question. I get it a few times from a few die-hard Republic fans. I'd like to be able to do merch, and I could technically do it right now, but I'd rather wait until we just have a few more people that are wanting it, you know? I just don't want to like start pushing merch and pushing all these different things, and it's like, dude, your channel's small, you know? I'm a small channel. I shouldn't really be... I think I just need to focus on making good videos right now, and not really get distracted with trying to like design a t-shirt or sell it and stuff like that. It's a nice idea, but I think basically if you're going to say like when will I be able to buy it, I'd say if I get to 50,000 subscribers, you know, in not that long of a period, let's say within 6 months, which would be amazing, then I'd probably start doing it. Do you have a PO box for fans to send you stuff? That's for DLM. No, I don't. I don't even know how to set one up. I don't know what the situation is in England on how to do that. But while I appreciate the sentiment, again, like I'm just a bit too small of a channel for people to be like sending me things. Like if people want to help me out, the best they could do is Patreon, always. Now, I understand it's maybe fun to send me something specific and I can show it on a stream or do something with it, or whatever it might be. But ultimately, at the moment, I'm just like hard on the fact that I need YouTube views, growth, Twitch subs, and patrons. That's kind of like my focus, not making t-shirts or not getting people to send me other things, you know? Maybe I'm looking about it all wrong. I'm open to the idea, but like I said, maybe if I hit 50,000 subs, then it would be more appropriate to do that kind of thing. On a scale of 1 to 15, how big is your bick? That's from your boy. I'd say about a 7. Alright guys, that is it for the Q&A. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Appreciate all the questions and support we've been getting over the last few months. as I've been mentioning, the channel's been doing great the last couple of months. Things are looking up, looking a bit better all the time, so I'm really excited for what lies ahead, especially in the next couple of months, moving into that room, potentially getting a bit more productive and things like that. So I'm really happy with how things are going. Let me know if you liked this video. Let me know what you think of some of the questions. Do I have any controversial opinions you disagree with? Let me know. I read every single comment. It's kind of a YouTube meme, like, oh, I read the comments, but I actually do. I get sent every comment on my phone. I read them. I don't get that many, so it's pretty easy to read through them. I don't respond to everything, but I do read everything. So if you have a comment or some thoughts you want to leave my way, leave me a comment. Leave me a like on the video if you want to see more AMAs like this in the future, like in the next 6 months or whatever. And I'll see you in the next one.